Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom with our host, Bob Olson, who will now introduce today's show and speaker.
Welcome to Cry Oneness, a program with Joe Avalos, designed to encourage people to share their experience with God, their miracles, their music, their poetry. Share your life. And now here he is, just back from down south, Joe Avalos. Good to have you with us, Joe.
Hi, Bob. Good to be back from Albuquerque, the conference on the Trinity, the Divine Dance, which was given by the Center for Action and Contemplation, Richard Rohr, the Franciscan priest. I had a great time. It was a wonderful event, full of love, service, people from all over the world. 12 countries and 50 states were represented at the event. I want to start off by, while I was down there in Albuquerque, I was going to meetings, and a gentleman gave me a ride home from a meeting I was at, and I was sharing about our website and the radio show, and he said, would you please give me your card, and if you do, I'll give you this book that I think you should read. And it's a book called The Power of Now, a Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment by Eckhart Tolle. And a lot of people in the rooms read this to help them, because once you're in the day, AA says stay in the day, and then this author says try to stay in the moment. That's where you come into contact with your higher power or God of your understanding. So I want to read the way this person explains coming into contact. It's really pretty intense. The first paragraph of the book let me know that I should read the whole thing, the first couple of paragraphs. It says, "You are not your mind," is chapter 1. The greatest obstacle to enlightenment is your mind. A beggar had been sitting on the side of the road for over 30 years. One day a stranger walked by. "Spare some change," mumbled the beggar, mechanically holding his old baseball cap. "I have nothing to give you," said the stranger. Then he asked, "What's that you're sitting on?" "Nothing," replied the beggar, "just an old box. I have been sitting on it for as long as I can remember." "Ever looked inside?" the stranger asked. "No," said the beggar. "What's the point? There's nothing in there." "Have a look inside," insisted the stranger. The beggar managed to pry open the lid. With astonishment, disbelief, and elation, he saw that the box was filled with gold. "I am that stranger who has nothing to give you, and who is telling you to look inside. Not inside any box, as in the parable, but somewhere even closer, inside yourself." "But I am not a beggar," I can hear you say. Those who have not found their true wealth, which is the radiant joy of being and the deep unshakable peace that comes with it, are beggars. Even if they have great material wealth, they are looking outside for scraps of pleasure or fulfillment, for validation, security, or love, while they have a treasure within, and not only includes all those things, but is infinitely greater than anything the world can offer. Talking about Jesus, isn't he?
That's right.
The immortal diamond, that treasure buried deep within us, that if we never look for it, we never find it. If we're always seeking ourself, we never find that. Self-seeking avails us nothing. That's what it tells me in the program I'm in. Self-seeking avails us nothing. The opposite, if we seek God, it avails us everything, because he is everything, he is everyone, and he is everywhere. And if we seek God, we are seeking our true self, because we are, in fact, other Christs. He lives in us, and he can't get out unless we move out of the way. And that's what enlightenment, spiritual awakening is all about, getting out of God's way so he can work through you, because he will not violate our free will. He will never violate the gift of free will. If we don't want him, he won't work through us. That leaves room for something else to work through us, which isn't very good.
But he won't, he'll never give up on us, though.
No, he won't give up on us. He'll keep knocking. That's what he did to me. He'll keep knocking until that door breaks down. He'll knock as hard as he has to or as lightly as he needs to. He knows exactly what people need. We don't know what we need. When we turn to him, we get everything we need. We may not get what we want, but we get everything we need, and needing is so important. To know what we need
Right.
and not just what we want.
Mm-hmm.
What we want is usually greed, lust, pride, envy, and all those other good things, you know. Our broken self wants those things, but our true self needs and wants Him, and He is, in fact, our true self. Okay, what I wanted to talk about next, if we don't get any phone calls, but we should ask people to call in, you know.
Let's give them the number.
Yeah.
Okay, the number is to call is 515-604-9227. And then they'll ask you for the code, and the code is 914121, and that's it. So give us a call.
I was this beggar, you know. I was this beggar that this guy is talking about, this Eckhart Tolle who wrote the book. I was the beggar. I was sitting on a box of gold. The box of gold is my higher power, my Lord Jesus, and I didn't know. You know, I couldn't get out of my own box.
That's right.
But I found that box of gold, and I'll tell you, once you find that box of gold, you don't want anything else, you know. You don't want anything else. So I was trying to figure out recently what got me to get this program, the Cry Oneness concept, and I came across some documents I wrote in 2014, and I want to share those if nobody's calling in yet. They're locutions, and it happened, and, you know, this is 3 years I haven't moved on these, but I got the messages 3 years ago to do what we're doing right now with the show and with evangelizing.
Yeah.
Here it is. The first one was a short one. I got these on October 23rd, 2014. This one was at 4:57 p.m. I am in your heart. Your faith has saved you. My heart is full of sorrow for mankind. My sons and daughters are in extreme peril. Sin is everywhere. Evil is strong, and all my children are severely tested. The weight of the world is heavy on my son's shoulders. We are at war. Don't lose heart. Cry out the word. Believe in miracles. Use the narrow gate. Pray without ceasing, one day at a time. Every day is a precious gift. Don't look back or ahead. Peace be with you. My peace I give to you. Love all, forgive all, accept all. Good night, my child. Share your gifts.
There's that message again about living in the present.
Yeah, it's the same as this book, living in the moment, right? You know,
Yeah.
I had trouble living in a day, but now I'm getting close to the point where I can be in the moment, you know, and that's a lot of progress. And this book, I'm sure, is going to help me a lot because of the way I got it. You know, when somebody good gives you something, you have a pretty good idea that it's a good thing. When I don't think of it,
Right.
it's usually really good, yeah. So this is the next thing. I wrote this maybe an hour later on the same date, October 23rd, 2014 at 4:46 p.m. And I was reading something, and I responded to it. And I got this in some type of spiritual website, but I don't recall what the name of it was. And the questions are, what words spring to mind when you think of your image of God? After sitting with those descriptors for a while, let them sink in and go deeper. Where did those descriptors come from? Do they also describe your life? Do you want them to? Where in your life is the mysterious image of God beckoning you to expand? So I wrote this response. Words to me in this moment are merciful, loving, almighty, awesome, wonderful, mysterious, ever present with us, in us, and because of us. I believe that these words are inner locutions that I feel and see in myself and others rather than hear. They are heart songs from the sacred part of my entire being, which is the one we seek and who we are in reality. I believe that within the past month especially, I am being drawn out of myself and into an era where I'm to get mostly heavily into lay evangelization and sharing my mystical experiences with others. Within the past month, I told my higher power that I was willing to witness if the people were placed in my path. The response was amazing. This month, I have shared my witness to over 800 people at 3 different locations without planning to. And I've handed out over 100 Holy Face medals, scapulas, and prayer cards in these 3 different retreat locations. First location, the Divine Mercy Shrine in Stockbridge, Mass., to a bus full of people, 100 from Canada. 2, a retreat with Immaculate in Westchester, Pennsylvania, with 750 people listening. 3, a Carmelite prayer group in Portland, Connecticut, with 20 people who had a devotion to the Holy Face. I believe I'm being led to share my experiences, strength, and hope, my personal miracles with others. I believe the name of this program to be Cry Oneness, a Miracle in Time. The first premise, cry out the word. The second premise, don't lose heart. The third premise, believe in miracles. And the fourth, use the narrow gate. Something interesting before I continue. This author describes the narrow gate as living in the moment. Quite a bit to follow for a retired fire rescue person who barely graduated high school and is in a 12-step program for alcoholism the past 9 years. Please pray for me. And then I got a response from somebody named Pamela Wright. Great, Joseph. What an amazing testimony you have. God working through the hardworking, the struggling high school grad, those wrestling with personal issues of addiction to bring others to know Him. I pray that you will continue along this healing path that God has taken you on. Blessings, Pamela Wright. So this was kind of the start. And then the next thing I wrote in the same time period was a snapshot of my mystical experiences the past 10 years. I've been doing some lay evangelizing using the following lay witness. Do you think I should share this event with groups? If so, where? So that's what I asked God. Until 10 years ago, I thought Jesus was just a historical figure whose crucified image was hanging in the church. I lived in constant fear of His judgment. I was a dues-paying Catholic who treated the church like an insurance policy. I drank and took prescription pills to calm my nerves. I was in the pit of my life, dark night of the spirit. On Shrove Tuesday, 2003, I was staying at a Holiday Inn in downtown Waterbury, Connecticut, with my sister and my 2-year-old goddaughter. I had a road to Damascus type of event. I know now, 10 years later, this is the night He came and got me, the beginning of my true conversion. I was in one bed, my sister and my niece were in the other. I was sheltering them from domestic abuse. I felt emotionally dead and exhausted, full of myself. I was 55 years old. I had lost faith and hope. I couldn't sleep. I looked out the window and saw a giant cross. I felt a strong spiritual presence in the room. I felt like someone was massaging me and telling me everything would be all right. I didn't believe it. I got up out of bed in a trance. I looked into the mirror and saw myself as a spirit, not human form. I blinked my eyes in disbelief, looked back, and there was now no image at all in the mirror. Frightened, I got undressed and went into the bathroom, thinking a shower might help. Instead, for some reason, I got into a yoga pose called Tree, which looks just like the crucified Christ. As soon as I did this, I heard a voice saying, I am the Alpha and the Omega. I responded, ha ha, Alpha and Omega. I suppose now you're going to teach me spirituality, like the ABCs. There was no verbal response, but immediately I felt like I was on a mountaintop. Words, but not words, were streaming in and out of me. I could not hear them, but I felt them penetrate my heart. After this, I went on for some time. I started crying and saying, you mean this is God and you're speaking to me? The response was not a response to my question, but a question. Are you willing to die for them? I responded, who, Lord? You mean my sister and my niece, right? The voice responded in the affirmative. The lesson continued with more non-word silence. Then the voice said, my mother is the key to your salvation. You will work with the Beitia in the place between heaven and earth to save souls. This was Shrove Tuesday, 2003, but I didn't know that till years after. October 1st, my birthday, and the feast day of St. Teresa of the Whole Face. I had my last drink. Thanksgiving 2004, I entered AA and had gone once a day ever since at least. Had spiritual experiences at the Divine Mercy Shrine in Stockbridge, encouraging me into daily rosary devotion, Catholic Bible readings, and the 3 p.m. Divine Mercy Chaplet. I left with a Catholic Bible, rosary beads, and a Divine Mercy CD. 2005, I took a Life in the Spirit program at St. Brendan's in New Haven, Connecticut, and received the gift of tongues and healing 3 months later. 2006, I started getting locutions and writing poetry. 2007, I went to the California wildfires with the Red Cross and received a long stem rose in a locked rental car after taking a photo of St. Teresa, an Italian restaurant called the Pope's Trace place in San Diego on the last day there. December 18th, 2008, I took 10 photos of Vero Beach sunset while singing Up to Where You Are by Josh Groban and got a face of Jesus in one of the photos after telling him the locutions were scaring me, please stop. Google YouTube Face of Jesus Bleeds for us if you'd like to see it. 2007, got music to 6 of my poems with no writing or musical abilities. 2009, started a devotion to the Holy Face, giving out copies of my photo with the face and a Holy Face medal and Holy Face devotion flyer. After that, I did a Shroud of Turin presentation with Don Knowles, who I met in a very strange way. I don't go to church anymore to pay my dues. I go to church because I love Jesus, and all my friends are in the Spirit. I'm working hard to stay there by doing acts of love and service. I was so lost, and now I'm so grateful and too busy with the Lord to feel sorry for myself or anyone else. I know He will save the whole world population if they let Him. After all, He has eternity to do it. Thank you for reading this. Please email me with your thoughts.
Wow. Yeah. That's quite a profile there.
Quite an amazing experience for the past 10 years, you know.
And you wrote down every one of those things. That's so beautiful.
I'll tell you, Bob, you know, you told me at my father's house, and I didn't believe it at the time. I think it was about 2004. And you said, Joe, if you're in the Spirit, you'll have at least one miracle a month of a major nature, right? You told me that.
Yep, that's right.
And I didn't believe it. And the Lord backed you up. You know, these are the major
beautiful.
But every month I get something, either a poem or I see something that knows God working in me and not me working myself. And, you know, I go to 6 to 10 meetings a week to make that happen, too, because being with sick and suffering people like myself is exactly what Jesus did, isn't it? He didn't come down and hang around with the people who didn't need Him, the righteous. He came down to save the sinners. He hung around with sinners. He ate with sinners. He did everything He could to heal them. He didn't even tell them what to do. He showed them what to do, just like St. Francis, right?
That's right.
And you're a Franciscan philosophy, and so am I. And I'll tell you, I had such a great time down there listening to Richard Rohr for 3 days and those 2 other people. They're all on the same spiritual beam. They all believe we have a loving and merciful God who's there to help us all the time. And it's so great to be with 2,000 people that have the same belief as you. And they closed this event with an agape service. It was multi-denominational. And the way they did the Eucharist, I told you, you know, they had a 50-foot-long table with 30 communion stations, and Richard Rohr sat at one end, and Cynthia Bourgeau sat at the other end, and everybody fed from both sides out of chairs that they were sitting in, and they fed each other the wine and the Eucharist back and forth, and it was amazing, you know. The priest sat there and let the people be like all Eucharistic ministers back and forth, and it was so moving. And after that, you know, his book is called The Trinity, the Divine Dance. And at the end, the final song was one of my favorite praise and worship songs, and we used to sing it all the time in the prayer group, Lord of the Dance.
Yep.
1,800 people dancing in a circle with arms like around each other and holding hands, just like we do in my program, dancing in a circle around the whole outer wall of where the table was in the center with the Eucharist on it, singing Lord of the Dance. And the Trinity is a divine outpouring of love. And the Trinity is a family, and I could even sense that the Trinity was dancing with us in the center of the room as we were dancing around the Trinity. It's one mighty ball, one mighty, mighty ball of love. And that whole room was spiritually intense, just like our life in the spirit rooms. It was amazing. People from 12 different countries and 50 states, all there to be loved by God and to love God back. What could be better?
Yes.
The whole world was like that. It would be great, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Nobody telling anybody what to do, just showing each other what to do. No words, silence. I heard something very moving at one of my meetings. I forget who even said this, but it was said, staying on the spiritual beam is like being on a tightrope. Life is like being on a tightrope sometimes. And the good news is that God created a net under the tightrope. And the name of the net is silence.
Yeah, it's a strong word.
God lives in the space between words. Sometimes the more we talk about, the less we hear God.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get a locution or a poem when you're talking.
Nope. I call it golden silence.
Oh, yes, Bob. Golden silence. That's the name of one of my poems, I think.
And that's where God speaks to us.
Yep.
In the silence.
When our mind is silent, he comes in. That's the whole thing in this book. It says the mind is the enemy. The heart is the friend. The heart never talks, but it has a mind of its own, and that's where the Lord lives, I think. He can only come into our head if we let him. If we don't let him, we have to be crazy. I love this saying. If God is your co-pilot, change seats.
If God is your co-pilot, change seats. That's right.
Let him drive. You'll have a great life.
That's right.
Stop driving. Just let him do it. You know, they're going to have cars that drive themselves now with a computer. But we don't need a computer. We got God driving, and we can just sit back and relax, you know.
That's right.
Tired of listening to Siri all the time.
Yeah, one weekend I was coming back from a retreat at this retreat center up in Upper Michigan, and it was a big snowstorm. And that was on this road, and it was a 2-lane road, but it looked like a goat trail because the snowstorm had been going for quite a while. And I had the sense that Jesus was in the seat right next to me. And I said, Jesus, you're going to have to drive. I'll hold the wheel, but I'm calling on you to help me to drive through this snowstorm. And that's exactly what happened. I think there's a song right now that you can find on YouTube. It's called You Take the Wheel, I think. Or Jesus Take the Wheel.
Yeah.
You can find that on YouTube.
Or you can find out that happens just by getting out of his way, and you'll experience it instead of reading it. Right?
That's right.
Get out of his way, and you'll experience just what Bob was talking about. Here's my description. Here's my description of coming into contact. It's called, this poem is called Heaven on Earth. I sit in stillness. At first, the noise is too much to bear, as the thoughts of the flesh fight to stay and be recognized. Then in crept the sweet tiny thoughts, ever so patient and graceful. The storm finally begins to calm as wisdom nudges insanity out of the way. Mercifully, justice edges out liberty, and peace triumphs over war. As fight surrenders to faithfulness, the battle begins to turn, and I become freed into an ocean of mercy and love. Finally, silence triumphs, and time stands still as in eternity. When here I bask in the silent, motionless, unconditional love and warmth of the sun, in a sweet taste of heaven on earth.
Can't beat that one.
Here's one on how important it is to share. It's called the River of Life Locution. This, I believe, is from the Lord to me when he said it, or when I thought it. And I didn't think these thoughts were mine, so I wrote them down. When your well is full of me, it's time to let it flow out to others. If you try to keep yourself full, you will lose what you have. For I am the river of life. No well is deep enough to contain the abundance of my mercy. To those I give much to, much is expected of. Be not like the Dead Sea, full of riches and minerals but not flowing out. Be instead like the river Jordan, living water flowing in and out, feeding the poor and the hungry, irrigating and creating rich soil on its banks for the sower of good seeds, growing into abundant fields of the master's crop, prepared fully for the harvest.
When did you do that one?
Oh, that was about 2007, I think.
Wow.
This is one on grace. I told you this before. I was taking care of a lady who, her name was Grace, and it was her birthday, and I started writing a poem about her, and this came out, and I think it's about the Holy Spirit or grace itself. Before the dawn of time, there was grace. Grace marked time and watched over creation. Grace gave wings to hope, and eagle soared upon her wind. She was a light in the wilderness and a sound in the silent word. As Father Time whispered, Grace amplified his words and turned them into good actions. When the Son of God was born, Grace carried him throughout his journey. When he died, she carried him home. Likewise, she will carry us if we let her. Grace moves people without touching them and touches people without moving them. She has as many children as the stars in the sky and the sands in the seas. What a great name to bear. Thank you, Grace.
You made me think of a song called Holy Love that was done by Andy Park. I don't know if I have the lyrics here, but if I do, I'll pass these lyrics along. Otherwise, I can't do it, I guess.
It'd be good if you could.
Holy Love.
I can hear. Is that playing in the background?
Yeah. In Ephesians it says, but God being rich in mercy, because of his great love. Okay, this is from Colossians, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins. I'll repeat the words. Many waters cannot quench your love. Rivers cannot overwhelm it. Oceans of fear cannot conceal your love for me. Many waters cannot quench your love. The rivers cannot overwhelm it. Oceans of fear cannot conceal your love for me. Your love for me. Holy love. Flow in me. Fill me up like the deepest sea, like a crashing wave, pouring over me. Holy love, hope flow in me. Many sorrows cannot quench your love. Darkness cannot overwhelm it. I will not fear. Your love is here to comfort me. Many sorrows cannot quench your love. Darkness cannot overwhelm it. I will not fear. Your love is here to comfort me. You comfort me. Holy love, flow in me. Fill me up like the deepest sea, like a crashing wave, pouring over me. Holy love, flow in me. So, holy love, when I find you, I find healing. When I find you, I find peace. I know there is no river so wide, no mountain so high, no ocean so deep, that you can't part the sea. Holy love, come flow in me. Fill me up like the deepest sea, like a crashing wave, pouring over me. Holy love, flow in me. Flow in me. Holy love, flow in me. Holy love, live in me. Holy love, and then at the end it says, paid in full.
Paid in full. See, now that's God answering him, paid in full. He's asking God for holy love in the song.
Yep.
And I have a couple of poems that's God's response to his song, I think. Because
Good.
there's always a response. When we pray to God, we always get something back, but sometimes we don't hear it. So, holy
You can
love.
find that song on. You can find that on YouTube too.
Oh yeah, I've heard it's very beautiful. And then
Very
he would
nice.
respond to that person with two of these locutions I got would be the response to that song. And one of them is, the first one's called Mighty Love. His love isn't just holy, his love is mighty. And God says this every time we get our own thoughts out of the way, I think. My beloved child, mighty is my love for you. Full of mercy, hope, and grace. Before the dawn of time I knew you. Your voice is music to my ears. When I gaze upon you, I see myself. Everything you do pleases me immensely. I call to you. I thirst for you. I bled for you. I died for you. I feel your pains. I share your gains. I'm here for you, now and forever. Nothing can separate us except your will. Please accept me. Please don't leave me again. And then God's response to trusted servants. And it's funny, this one starts in the we, which is what this whole Trinity conference was about, that God is a family, a constant bucket outpouring of, each part of the Trinity is like a bucket wheel of water, constantly emptying itself to the other one and revolving in a constant flow of love. So this is
I like that.
titled God's Response to Trusted Servants. Once one part of the Trinity empties itself, the other one takes it and then empties it, and then it just keeps being emptied and filled like a water wheel.
Mm-hmm.
We are pleased with the offerings you have been making. Listen carefully. Speak even more carefully. Silence is frequently the best response. Waste not time trying to figure things out. Think and act on the desires of the heart, not the mind. Place your trust in Jesus, and your life will be beyond your wildest dreams. Stay focused on living a humble life of love and service. Act only on what is directly in front of you. Be patient and persistent in your silent time each morning. More will be revealed as needed. Be patient and persistent in your silent time each morning. More will be revealed as needed. Your brother, friend, and lover, Jesus.
Wonderful.
And this is my response to what he just told me in those two locutions. Letter to God. Dear Jesus, I feel that peace and stillness now, and I know that is you. You are the stillness in my heart that only enters into my consciousness when I am willing to let it enter my mind, which is usually chaotic. The key to the door between my heart and mind can only be opened with the key of willingness. That willingness happens when I sit in silence and contemplate your love and mercy. When I stop attaching to my thoughts and surrender to your silent words. When I feel you gaze upon me with unconditional approval. When I start to understand that this is your body, not mine, and that what I don't know is vastly more important than what I think I know. Then, in an unexpected flash of hope, I suddenly, for a joyous microsecond, understand with my heart only a new truth. That you are in me, that I am in you, that we are one. That the only thing that can separate me from you is free will, and that gift that you also experienced on earth is an irrevocable free gift curse from the Father. It's a gift if I use it to seek you, and a curse if I use it to seek myself. It's a gift if I use it to serve others, and a curse if I use it to serve myself. It's a gift if I love and accept others unconditionally, and a curse if I use conditions on my love. It's so hard, though, Lord, to act on what I know is true, to love my enemies, to love the people who hurt me, to forgive the people who kill me, as you did, to accept dying for my brothers and sisters. Thank you for this time with you today. With hope and gratitude, your brother, friend, and lover, Joe. So prayer has to be bidirectional, and if you listen carefully, it will become bidirectional. You'll get these thoughts that you know aren't you. Write them down, journal them. There's a good chance that those thoughts are coming from the Lord. I guess my friend from Albuquerque got cold feet.
Well, that happens.
Probably not, though. His wife was sick last week, so he's probably taking care of her. He's a great guy. His name is Bud, and he helps a lot of people down there in Albuquerque. He's very love and service oriented. We spent 4 hours talking at a little cafe in the morning for breakfast, and at the end, we emptied our hearts out to each other. Everything that was bothering us that day, we talked about. He had some issues with his son, and I had some issues with my father, and we shared back and forth. And by the time our 4-hour meeting was over, we had released all that non-forgiveness out of our lives. I thought I had forgiven my father completely, but there's always residue left that you have to get out to another person going through the same thing. That wounded healer concept, it really works. When you have something wrong and you talk to somebody else that has the same thing wrong, what an experience, Bob. I can't even tell you. And I was supposed to be at the conference, and I waited and kept talking to him because it was so intense what we were talking about, and so much forgiveness and love was happening, and so much release of it. And I wound up getting to the conference, and I thought I was going to be late, and I was there right on time because I didn't worry about it. They ran a little bit late. Isn't that amazing? Then at the end of the conference, I found out that I had made a mistake on my reservations, and I was thinking that the conference ended midday on Saturday, and it ended after the Agape Mass at 5:45, and I had to leave on a flight at 3. So I go back to the hotel on a lunch break, and Richard Rohr was talking about at 3 again. They were having question and answers on the whole conference, and then at 5:45 they were having Agape Mass, And then there was having spiritual exercises, chanting, and relaxation methods and everything. And I wasn't going to get to go to any of those. So I got my bag, and I paid my check at the hotel, and I went and sat outside and called for an Uber. And I looked down at my phone. There was a text message from the airlines. Your flight has been delayed by 2 hours, which meant my connecting flight for Houston was also, I was going to miss it if that flight was 2 hours late. So I called the airlines right away, and they said, get to the airport right away. We think you can get on a 1:30 flight. If you don't, go to the counter, and we'll take care of you anyway. So they switched me to American Airlines. I take the Uber. I go to the airport. And despite everything I tried to do, I wound up having to stay in Albuquerque that night. And I got back just in time for the question and answer at 2 and for the Agape Mass at 5:45. The Lord knew I wanted to go to the rest of the conference. What do you think happened? The crew, the crew for the airplane wound up being late by 2 hours. And that was a delay. And I think it had to do with the Chicago incident because it happened the same day. Might have been the crew that was heading to Albuquerque that had that fight on the plane instead.
Huh.
Isn't that amazing? That's like,
right.
You know, what he will do for one person who wants more of him is unbelievable, isn't it? He'll rewrite aircraft and everything else. If you want to stay with him longer, he'll change the plans of the rest of the people that don't care about him to suit your needs, won't he?
You're right.
And I never believed stuff like that before, but I certainly believe it now. When you're with him, nothing, absolutely nothing is impossible. All you have to do, he knows what you're thinking, and he'll take care of it, because I didn't ask him to make more time for me. I just resigned myself to the fact that I had made a mistake, and I was going to go. And that's it. You know, I guess the same type of thing when he asked Abraham to kill his son. He wanted to make him go through it, and then he released him, right? Just before he did it.
Yeah.
We never know what's going on. God. Yeah.
Al was saying today about that incident. That was the end of sacrificing. That very thing that Isaac was stopped from doing. And that was where God showed that this is going to be the end of sacrifice. No more sacrificing. You know?
Yeah, except for his own son. He just
and then
Abraham would do it to his son, and when he knew that man would do it for him, he did it for man, correct?
That's right. And that also at Our Lady of Guadalupe, that was the end of sacrificing in Mexico, too.
Children no longer got sacrificed to the lava gods after her intercession to the Mexican people. That was amazing, too. I have Our Lady of Guadalupe right on the wall here. I'm looking at it. I was down there 2 years ago, in Mexico City with the Mexican dignitary that I housed at my house in Stanford, and he invited me down there, and I stayed in an Adobe College campus with him, and he was the speechwriter for the governor of Oaxaca, Mexico. And he was 24 years old. Him and his friend came up, and because of that Mexico Sister City program with Galdino Velasco, Galdino couldn't house them, and he asked me to. So I took them in at my place down on Town Street in the Lockworks, and they had a great time, and they invited me down, and I got to see Our Lady of Guadalupe just for the cost of an airfare. And that's an amazing ride down there. You know you're almost in heaven when you look up at that, don't you?
Exactly.
She left that picture just like Christ left the Shroud of Turin for us. She left this, right? To prove her existence. And Jesus left the shroud to prove his existence. How can people be so blind as to not believe in things like this, How can their hearts be so hard? I know the shroud debuggers and everything, they're saying it's not scientific, it's not this, it's not that. I mean, basically, both Mary and Jesus left their picture for us, right? To prove it. And then he gives me a picture with the shroud face in it. And you know what happened when I got back to Stanford when people didn't believe that it was real, right? Did I tell you that story yet?
Uh-huh.
I'm staying with the family I know in Stanford. I don't want to mention their names because they might get embarrassed. But, one of the people has a body shop, and they didn't really believe the picture was real. And the next day, the same picture showed up in one of the cars they were working on. The same face, the shroud face. So, God is real, and he will do anything to make people believe he's real, so long as we get out of his way. Even if we doubt, he'll keep coming to us until he proves his existence. And he's proven it through science now. You know, science proved the shroud is real, except, you know, the only problem was they took the sample out of the wrong place. And it said it wasn't old enough, but it was a place where the nuns in the later date had stitched it up and repaired it after the fire. And when fire happens, it changes the dating too, so the carbon dating. So, you know, I believe in the shroud, I believe in the Holy Face, and I certainly believe in the tilma that Mary left for Juan Diego. That's another miracle. God will do anything to get one sinner home, won't he, Bob? He'll stand on his head for you. Are you there, Bob?
Okay, I'm here. I have in my hand a book called Healing from Heaven, written by Dr. Suzanne R. Jamal. She lives in Canada. And this book was printed and published by Sebastian Mahfoud. And Dr. Rhonda Chervin wrote the foreword for it. And this woman said, I would briefly like to tell you how this book came into existence. It is my private journal written during a difficult period in my life. The economy was poor, business was slow, the recession ravaged my private practice as a clinical psychologist. Thrown overboard into a sea of unknown and unstable, I fell into unrest and was plagued with thoughts of going under. But in my heart, I believed my situation would turn around. In 2013, my office building finally sold. It was located in Flint, Michigan, the crime capital of the United States. It sold for the price of a fully loaded compact car. The financial loss only served to fuel the tidal wave of disempowering thoughts that tormented me. Giving up wasn't an option, while it frequently crossed my mind. Surely heaven understood my condition, so I decided to say yes to life, expecting God's favor to lift me above my personal challenges, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. A reader may think all this comes from my unconscious mind, the vault of dreams, intuitions, and buried beliefs. I don't think so. I believe my book came from our Creator because I asked God to give me a new assignment. At that point, I believe I formed a creative alliance with the Holy Spirit, who spoke directly to my heart. And I think someone's joining us now. Hello? Hello, are you there? Sounded like someone was joining us. You're still there, Joe, right?
I hear something. I thought I heard something, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was your friend, maybe.
Yeah.
But this,
so that's probably why he didn't call. But
I'm going to read this one. Her first selection in here is called Abandon into God's Embrace. God will take care of you. He loves you and draws you near with an embrace of welcome. Reach for him. Jesus lived to do the will of his Father. We too are called to say yes to God. Accept whatever he gives and accept whatever he takes. Anchor yourself in his loving embrace. Let him do a work in you. God provides. His tender love envelops you. God's in control. Whatever comes into your life, quit resisting, quit fighting. God will use every circumstance to your advantage when you stay in an attitude of faith.
Mm-hmm.
That's our first one.
That's good. An attitude of gratitude and faith, yeah.
That's right. And accept what God gives and accept what God takes. pretty good book. And
sometimes life is so hard to accept, but it's solely necessary. You know, we have to just accept everything, even if it's not feeling right for us. Because if you fight, it's worse. You know, if you worry, it's worse.
Right. That's right.
Worry, it happens twice, right? If it does happen, it happens twice if you worry. So you might as well just accept life in the now, exactly the way it is. And God has, you know, these are all like little exercises, I believe. You know, there's things He puts in our life for a reason. We really don't have as much to do with our own life as we think we do, I think, you know. I was at a meeting, and they were sharing on the differences between people, and I wrote this. It's called Universal Faces of God. And it's kind of mixes in some, not horoscope or anything, but astronomy, not you know, the stars and everything. People used to believe there's a star for every person on Earth. But now science has proved there are approximately 70 galaxies for each person on Earth. If we could understand from this completely how small we are and how great our God is, we would have perfect humility. After I shared my 12-step meeting on the topic of how dangerous it is to compare and feel different, I started brainstorming about differences. I came up with this. If I could leave my body and go through that tunnel with a bright light at the end that my father described when he had his cardiac arrest in 1972, after he was successfully resuscitated, and if I was allowed to look back at the entire present universe through God's eyes now, I would see a gigantic living mosaic comprised of every man, woman, child, creature, and object in the universe. I would see through spiritual eyes that God made everything different so it would fit together better, like a giant, beautiful, living quilt our spiritual mother knitted. And then, viewing this miracle in that precise moment, I'd be ready to enter the womb of salvation and be in God's light, where hell would be only a distant, fleeting, negative thought. And my heart would understand that I was now viewing the faces and skin of my God, and what a tiny piece of that I am. I would instantly know that God is not up there. He is, in fact, in me, and that every living creature is a piece of God in action, because God is a verb and not a noun, and we are each part of God unless we use our free will to separate ourselves from Him and His love. He created us all to fit together, and He also created the fact that we have to work hard to stay together with people. That's what marriage is all about. You know, it's not all good. It's all good, but it's not all easy. You know, there's a sign over the room I'm in. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy. I'm going to tell you it's going to be worth it. Unity,
I like that.
Oneness. Unity and oneness are the two spiritual principles that were spoken about at this conference many, many times. Unity, oneness. We are one. The Trinity is one. We are one. The universe is one. We're one with nature. We're one with the sun. We're one with... Becoming one is the goal of unity. Unity, the goal for unity is to become one, to work against all odds to become one. That's the spiritual principle of unity. And God was, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the word unity was used to describe God in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Unity was God's name originally. That, to me, makes a lot of sense. You know, it's not that easy to be with God, but it's totally necessary and totally changes your life for the better to stop struggling and to accept Him as your Savior. It gets not necessarily easier, but you come to understand that He's suffering with us, that we don't suffer alone, and He's happy with us. We're not happy alone. Even if we're not married, we're married to Him when we let Him be our spouse. And what a ride after that happens, right, Bob?
That's right. That's right.
It's like a roller coaster, but it's exciting, isn't it? And you get to help other people get on the roller coaster, and they scream and holler with you, and they love the hills, and it gets really enjoyable. To be with people in the Spirit is the most amazing thing that's happened in my life. To be with other people who feel the same way and praise and worship God, and try to not worship themselves anymore. You know, no pride, humility instead of pride. It's such being there with all those humble people in Albuquerque was so amazing. You know, when we got there, the sound system wasn't working right, and everybody was laughing instead of complaining while they fixed it. Does that happen in many conferences? or they'd be YouTubing and texting and saying how horrible the conference was, right? Everybody laughed and took it as a spiritual exercise instead of an inconvenience.
Yeah.
1,800 people together normally do that when things go wrong? I don't think so.
It sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then dance together at the end of the whole thing and love each other and sing Lord of the Dance.
Yeah, it was quite a time.
Oh, I'll never forget it. It was 3 days of like being in heaven. Everybody was talking about the same thing, the same persons, plural. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost and Mother Mary. Everybody was onto it. It was beautiful. And then Richard Rohr has a picture of the Trinity. It's an icon, and it's got a mirror in front of the table they're sitting at, and he's got a whole explanation about the Trinity based on the photo, And where there's this mirror on the table they're sitting on. They said the reason he believes that mirror is there is because the mirror is us looking into the mirror, and we're like the fourth part of the Trinity. God created the Trinity, and then he created us too to mirror the Trinity, to mirror Jesus. It's just amazing, the concepts that were going around, and everybody so open-minded and open-hearted, at the same time. You could feel the spiritual presence with 2,000 people believing in God that strongly and there to have a good time, and that's exactly what they got, even when things started to go wrong.
Yep.
And then my plane trip, right? I wanted to stay. I wound up staying. I fought it a little bit, but God overcame my objections and got me right back there in time for the rest of the message. Unity, oneness was the message of the conference. Unity and oneness. It was repeated thousands of times by everybody. Amazing.
What time did you leave? What time did you leave there then?
The next morning, I just had to stay overnight and get a 5 o'clock flight in the morning.
Oh, that was the idea. Yeah, okay.
I sent you a little video. I made a video from the airplane, the clouds and everything, and I put 3 of my poems on the video and some background music, and it came out beautiful. And it was the sun rising on Palm Sunday out of the window. It came out very nice. I sent you a copy.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Logo, and it's got the the light in the dark. It's
I enjoyed that.
Christ in it with his hand out with the communion face. I don't know if I sent you the recent updated version. I'll send it again, but
yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, I put Jesus' pictures in there. One of the face of Jesus pictures I got at the conference with him with his hand extended out, like the Trinity picture at the conference, and a Eucharistic cup streaming with steam coming out of it, with his hand sticking out, inviting you in with the same faces as on the Holy Face, but an artist version of it. Him sitting there calling you.
Okay, we're at the end, Joe. We got 2 minutes.
Okay.
That friend that was you thought might call, was that the fellow that gave you the book?
No, that's the fellow whose wife was sick and who was talking to me about his son, and I was talking to him about my father.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We fled out of the 4-hour meeting and totally forgave them both. Yeah.
That was when you had that long talk in the restaurant.
Yeah, in the cafe in the morning. Beautiful location.
Yeah. Good.
Excellent food. Yeah.
Well, we'll be back next week, same time, same station, WCAT Radio, and the name of the program, of course, is Cry Oneness with Joe Avalos. Thank you, Joe, for being with us again, and we'll see you next week. And in the meantime, may God bless each and every one of you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.